When thinking of the most important players in the justice system, it is common to jump straight to individuals such as judges, prosecutors, and police investigators. However, there is one position that contains essentially unrestricted power to present to juries their own beliefs and assumptions about crime scene evidence as fact, often making them the pivotal witnesses in murder trials. This same power also allows them to indefinitely delay or completely undercut investigations into suspicious deaths that happen within their jurisdiction. The Department of Justice website defines the role of forensic scientists as to examine and analyze evidence from crime scenes and elsewhere to develop objective findings that can assist in the investigation and prosecution of perpetrators of crime or absolve an innocent person from suspicion. This series will delve into a few especially strange cases that were led by forensic examiner Dr. Erik K. Mitchell in order to illustrate the true power that this position holds. Erik Mitchell has had a long and turbulent career as a medical examiner, spanning over 3 decades in multiple states. During his career, he has made headlines for his controversial decisions and questionable ethics, the likes of which have caused many innocent people to be convicted for crimes they did not commit, as well as other cases where Mitchell's inefficiency and indecision has allowed for investigations to go cold, where Mitchell has either closed a case before an investigation played out, or waited too long to make a ruling about the death, and by the time he finally did, all of the leads had dried up, leaving the victim's family without closure. In many of these cases, the family is inevitably left wondering what really happened to their loved one, and since then have spent many years searching for answers. Episode 3 takes us back to the 1980s when Erik Mitchell was working as the medical examiner in Syracuse, New York. In March 1987, Valerie Hill, a pediatric nurse, was found dead in her Syracuse apartment. She'd been strangled with a bathrobe and sexually assaulted. Her jilted ex-boyfriend, Hector Rivas, had been accused by some of stalking Valerie. Immediately upon the autopsy, Erik Mitchell estimated the time of death between March 28th and 29th. Hector Rivas was investigated but had a credible alibi during that time. He'd been watching a Syracuse basketball game with friends who all verified that he was with them when the killing occurred. No one was arrested, and the case went cold for nearly 6 years until William Fitzpatrick was elected district attorney in Syracuse on a campaign promise to reopen and solve cold cases. At this time, Erik Mitchell was under serious investigation due to the Nanette Gordon case. At the time, the inquiry into his office had led him to be investigated for 144 misdemeanors and 3 felonies. It's been alleged in court documents that William Fitzpatrick knew Mitchell was under investigation, as his office was overseeing the investigation, and used this leverage to pressure Mitchell into pushing Fitzpatrick's agenda. Fitzpatrick allegedly asked Mitchell to change the time of death to a time where Hector Rivas did not have an alibi. Nearly 6 years after the original ruling, Erik Mitchell changed the time of death by 1 day, between March 27 and 28, leaving Hector Rivas without a credible alibi after all these years. One of the whistleblower complaints against Erik Mitchell during the investigation into his office was from Dr. David Riegel, who alleged that Mitchell told him medical examiners work for the county and were there solely to serve the needs of the district attorney's office. Mitchell's reasoning for changing the time of death was due to brain slides he claimed he'd reviewed as evidence. These brain slides were later determined to be non-existent. The prosecution's case was almost entirely circumstantial and turned on the testimony of Erik Mitchell. Hector's attorney Richard Cayley did not know about the investigation into Mitchell's office, even though it was widely publicized in the news, so he never used it to discredit Mitchell's testimony. Hector Rivas was found guilty of murdering Valerie Hill and was sentenced 25 years to life in prison. During sentencing, he faced Valerie's father and told him, "I look you in the eye again and tell you I am innocent." Hector's attorney during the trial, Richard Carley, would later be disbarred and sentenced to prison himself for his role in a wire fraud scheme. While in prison, Hector Rivas hired lawyer Sidney Maines, who had also represented Nanette Gordon's family. Sidney Maines had championed the cause of bringing justice to Nanette Gordon, and now would play a key role in keeping Hector Rivas's appeal hopes alive. Sidney Maines was quoted as saying, "I'm absolutely convinced that Hector is innocent." In 2015, the Second Court of Appeals ordered a new trial for Hector Rivas, due in part to the credibility of Erik Mitchell's testimony. Hector Rivas could not afford the $200,000 bail and would have to remain in custody as he awaited a second trial. Hector's health was deteriorating, and a lawsuit would later claim that the Onondaga County Jail was delaying the medical care he was asking for by months. Lawyer Sidney Maines argued in court papers that William Fitzpatrick was intentionally stalling and delaying the second trial, while Hector's health condition worsened. He lost over 80 pounds in just 15 months. When he was finally seen by a doctor in 2016, he was admitted to emergency surgery for diverticulitis. His condition did not improve, and just days after the surgery, Hector predicted that he was going to die in jail. On July 6th, he was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Hector Rivas died in prison on July 10, 2016. He was only 64 years old. He is survived by his wife and son. In 2019, his family filed a lawsuit against Erik Mitchell, District Attorney William Fitzpatrick, the city of Syracuse, and the Onondaga County Jail. After he died, the indictment against him was dismissed, meaning he died an innocent man in the eyes of the law.